never felt good about what we were doing in the world. And I didn't like that. Figure out what you care about and what you're passionate about, what you're good at and what's easy. If it's not easy, you're not going to be able to sustain it. You build the business that you want to build for you. Listen to yourself. Oh my gosh, if I had done that 20 years ago.
Do tell me. Tell me what you were doing before you became a designer for yourself. I'd love to know what was the job before this?
So it's kind of a story. So I used to actually be a WordPress website designer, and it was very much not fun, and I hated it. But I built an agency. I had like 9 employees, like tons of clients, and I hated the work. I did that from 2006 to 2015, totally fell into it, did not go to school for design at all or anything. I just started designing websites for writers, and then just was like, well, I'm making more money designing websites than writing unfinished novels. So I might as well do this for, a gig. But anyway, I sold it in 2015. And then I kind of futzed around a little bit. I did some business coaching and marketing consulting for a few years, but that was very exhausting and drained me. And I burned out hard in 2019, 2020. And then I was like, okay, I'm going to try to make all this internet money. I'm going to try some e-commerce. We're going to try some Amazon selling. I'm going to try all the things. Nothing worked. And then I actually signed up for this unbelievably expensive program to kind of teach you how to do high ticket group coaching. And I was like, I'm going to make this work. And I did not want to make that work. As soon as I signed up and got into the content, I was like, oh my God, what have I done? I just started thinking what do I really know? And I'm like, I know web design and I know online marketing. And I found Squarespace 2 days after they released Fluid Engine. Mm-hmm. And I was like, this is what web design should have always been, Yes. It's amazing. And then I found you and I found your work and I read every blog, hours and hours, stalking all of your content because I love your approach. And I was like, I think I can do this again in a way that won't be exhausting, in a way where I don't have to muck around with code because I hate code. And I'm allergic to it and it's very bad for me. And don't have to worry with hosting and updating plugins and keeping the security and all this crap that you don't have to worry about. I can just focus on the design and the marketing, which is what I love. And so I was like, all right. So I kind of hung out a shingle at the end of 2022. And then last year was the first year that I was like, all right, let's see if I can make this a business and make this go. And I mean, here we are. I love it. I love my life.
That's amazing. Okay. Coming back to the previous, web design business. So correct me, the main frustrations with the business, was it the fact that it was agency style, or it was mostly just WordPress giving you a ton of headaches, or what was the thing that you didn't like before?
It was both. I mean, I'm not well suited to running an agency. I don't like the HR work. I don't like managing a team of people. I am a geek for marketing psychology and design. I love that. And the further away I got from it, the more miserable I was. Mm-hmm. And I mean, and there's so much we could talk about there because I learned about profit first from you. Yeah. So even running this super successful agency, I wasn't bringing in enough money. It was a whole thing. So many things I have learned from your work. So that was definitely a thing. But the biggest issue that I had was ultimately at the end of the day, I hated the product. Mm-hmm. WordPress, in my opinion, gives people terrible customer experience. Mm-hmm. It costs so much to build, but then when you build it, the work's not done. It costs so much to maintain. And so I was never happy. I never felt good about what we were doing in the world. And I didn't like that.
That makes sense. That makes complete sense. Okay, cool. Okay. And then you get into Squarespace, you start looking at it, you start enjoying it. You decide, you know what? I'm going to take a second crack at this business. Why did you even choose to take my courses? Because it seems like you had a fair bit of experience. What was going through your head? What was making you think okay, no, I should still take a course on this?
So a lot of it was you, because I just loved your content and I loved your approach. there was so much about the way you approached your business that like was just a novelty to me. You know, I'm so old school, you know, I just knew the old way of doing things and the WordPress way of doing things. And your whole idea of like, I'm going to build a site in 2 weeks. And I was like, you're going to what? Like sites take years. What are you talking about? And like the idea that you could build it in 2 weeks and build one site at a time, which my neurodivergence just loves, right? Like I could really focus in, right? There were a lot of things that a lot of ways that you approach things that I was just like, oh my God, that's brilliant. And at the end of the day, I was insecure about my process. I just was, you know, you think you have stuff ironed out, but like it helps so much, just psychologically for me, it helped so much just to be like, okay, like literally, how is she onboarding people? How is she getting their content? You know, like, I needed that to feel, okay, I know what I'm doing, you know? Yeah. So that was why I decided to go ahead and get the course. Yeah.
That makes sense. Okay, cool. Okay. And then tell me about, things that you learned from the course that you do differently in your business now. Obviously one is Squarespace. And then I guess shorter process. Is there anything like, what are all the things that makes this business easier and more joyful to run now?
Well, there's a ton of things. So there's just a ton of things, and a ton of things that I learned, not even just from the course, but from your content, like Profit First. I learned about that from one of the monthly calls because you were just like, oh, this is a game changer. And I read Profit First and I was like, oh my God, this is everything that was wrong with the agency. Everybody's like, scale, expand. And I'm like, where's my money? How am I going to survive, you know? And now like, I run the business super lean. I only like get softwares and employees when I need them in the ways that I need them. I really take care of myself. And I have so much left over to take care of clients, you know? So I love the one client at a time. I can dive in. It's white glove. It's VIP. They feel so taken care of because they've got my full attention. I'm sure I could think of more, but
yeah. That makes sense. Yeah. You just feel better offering it for all those reasons. It's like, okay, I really feel like I'm putting them on a platform that they're going to enjoy, and this is an experience that they like and I like. I love that. I'm so happy. That's great.
It's really cool. And the send off is amazing. Like that's the best part of the whole thing is I build them this beautiful site and then I'm like, go out into the world with your new site and like, you're not going to stress. You're not going to worry. It's not going to break in 6 months. You're not going to, if you don't want to rebuild your whole site in 2 years, you don't have to. With WordPress, that's not the case.
Yeah, totally.
So,
yeah, I hear you. Okay, good. That's amazing. Talk to me. People are always curious about like marketing strategies, how are designers finding clients? Tell me about when you started the business the second time, like how did you find clients for this business? Like what was your first step to make that happen? Because you built this thing quickly. So I want to hear like what your thought was and what did you do first?
So I'm very lucky that I had this whole like stack of old clients. So from both the marketing consulting and business coaching and the old website design, I've got a lot of people who know me and I was like, I did a lot of speaking in the WordPress world. I was a WordPress organizer and I spoke at a bunch of WordCamps. So like I've been kind of out in it. So I was really, really, really lucky. Once I hung out the shingle, I like posted a few blog posts, put a few things on social media, and I had clients start coming in. I know for most people it's not that easy. When I sold my website design business, when I got rid of it, I woke up like in January and I was like, oh my God, how am I going to make money? And I like immediately started public speaking. So I love speaking. I love teaching. Those are really easy for me. And I was like, I'm going to give a free workshop every month for a year. And I ended up doing it for about 3.5 years. And I built that consulting business up so quick. And I really think looking back now, I know a lot of the traction that I'm getting is from the brand that I built then, which is something I've been thinking about a lot. I didn't used to really like believe in brand. And now I'm kind of like, oh, it's a big deal because I built a lot of trust. And so I think that if I were giving advice to someone who's like, I really want to build my business, I would be like, figure out what you care about and what you're passionate about, what you're good at and what's easy. If it's not easy, you're not going to be able to sustain it. Right. And then take a stand, take a stand in the world, like stand up and be counted and get yourself out there, whether that's writing content. I tried to write 2 blog posts a month, like Paige, for the longest time, and I'm just not built for it. But like, if blogging works for you, or if speaking works for you, or if like maybe giving webinars works for you or whatever, like I would say go for that. And I think you'll be surprised at how quickly you can you can build something.
That makes sense. I think it's also an interesting point, though, is that sometimes people have, like, you obviously, have a lot of background, then you have this business consulting thing. But for some people start off with literally nothing. Other people start off, they have run some sort of previous something, or they were an influencer before. I've even had like past influencers become students and stuff. And so it does show that, like, do at least like put that offer in front of your past people just to see in case they're interested. And it turns out, I mean, business consulting is not the same as website design, but there is some overlap. So that's really good.
Yeah, totally. That's the thing, right? Even if you're coming at this as a total beginner, you're not coming from zero. Like, you have a past life, you have a past thing. Like, leverage that audience or leverage that network, or you know what I mean? Like, even just reaching out. Like, there are tons of people that I know, like, build these amazing businesses. They never post on social media. They're never out there doing stuff, but they network all the time. They're constantly reaching out to people on LinkedIn or in their, local network or whatever. There's tons of ways to do this.
Totally.
You gotta go for it.
Yeah. Tell me also more about this speaking strategy. What kind of places were you like targeting to do the speaking, and like how did you get yourself to be a speaker in these places? Was it like a specific niche of like speaking groups or something? Like, tell me about that.
Yeah, no. It was so weird. I just was like, I just need a space. I'm just going to show up and see if anybody comes. And so I actually rented a room. I lived in Boulder at the time. I'm in Chicago now, but I lived in Boulder, Colorado. And I rented a space in the local library. You could like reserve 2 hours for free or something. And I'm like, all right, I'm just going to show up. I put the workshops on Eventbrite. And that got some public people. And then I like kind of told my network, I would go in Facebook groups and like places where I knew people and be like, hey, I'm giving a free talk on SEO, or I'm giving a free talk on, I actually had 6 months of workshops that I kept repeating. And I did one on SEO. I did one on like copywriting 101. I can't even remember any of the branding. I did one on like basic branding and stuff like that. And like kind of the beginning pieces that you would need to build a solid website. And I just started showing up, and I taught workshops to 2 people. I did. I mean, that's how it's going to be some days, But after I did it about like 6 to 8 months, I would say is really when I started to get traction. I regularly had 30 to 50 people in my workshops.
Amazing. That is so good. Okay, so I guess you were getting a lot of local clients from that. Is that right?
Tons.
Yeah.
I still to this day, I was like probably 80% of my client roster is in Colorado. That's awesome. It's all referrals and stuff. Yeah. So
that makes sense. Man, I love that so much. It's actually, it's so good to hear of marketing strategy. And like, that is something truly anyone can do. Like, get a free, like, spot in the local library for 2 hours and post on Eventbrite. I mean, that's really something that like,
right,
is.
And once you start doing it, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Once you start, I love this topic. Once you start doing it, like people start coming to you. Oh my gosh, you have to come speak at our networking group. Oh my gosh, you have to come speak at my organization. Oh my God. I mean, there would be months I'd have 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 speaking gigs. So it really ballooned. And the other thing to do, if you're interested in that, the other thing I would do is to say, tell your local SBA.
Yeah.
Because they'll throw traffic your way.
Yeah, that makes sense. Amazing. Okay, cool. Okay, tell me about like your pricing journey as well. I'm curious because you have hit some very impressive milestones in terms of revenue in your business very quickly. What did you start charging? What are you charging now? And you hit 50K really fast. So tell me about like how long exactly that took and like what the pricing was to get you there.
So I launched my site in like a couple days after Thanksgiving in 2022. And I was in this weird place because, I charge thousands of dollars for websites, but like here I am many years later and there's no portfolio. I'm not putting a WordPress site up in my portfolio, and they were all outdated anyway, and I'm like, what do I charge? And I had been doing business consulting at $250 an hour. So it's like, what do I start out with? So I kind of kept my $250 an hour rate if somebody wanted to coach with me. But then I started out with sites at $2,000 because I just felt like that was fair. I'm like, we're still trying. I don't even know if I'm gonna like this. I don't even know if I'm gonna stick with this. Like, let's just see. And So I started out at $2,000, and then every few clients I would raise it $500 until the last couple rounds. The last couple rounds have been $1,000. But the funniest story is I actually got my first client within 2 days. Talk about leveraging your old network. So I launched my site, and it's not even finished, right? Because I know Google's not going to find it in 2 days. I'm not like worried about it. I'm just launching it, and I'm still tinkering and playing and stuff, right? Launched the site. 2 days later, somebody bought a website review, and I just was like, who the heck are you? Where did you come from? She found me on an old brochure that I had rented ad space on, an old travel brochure from like an old networking thing I had done like 10 years before. And I had, of course, put a redirect in from my old site to my new site. So even though it wasn't marketing consulting, it wasn't WordPress website design, she was like, oh, this is cool. You've got a cheap website review. Let's see what you think of my site. And then she bought like a $3,000 package to like update her old site.
Love that. Okay, that's amazing. Okay, so also tell me about your different offerings. Okay, so we have website reviews. So that's like you doing a pre-recorded audit of the website, I would take it, or live audit, or
pre-recorded. Yeah, I do like a 30-minute Loom where I just like walk through their site and like give them, advice and stuff. And it's a loss leader. But it's almost always leads to business. And then I have my basic sites start at $5,500. And then I offer, my day rate is $1,750. So it's like 7 hours, and you can get it all in one day. But I also do a thing where I'll like stretch it out over 2 months, because a lot of times people are like, I want to look at stuff or think about stuff. So that's $1,750 for 7 hours. And then I do AI photo shoots. And
cool. Okay. Tell me about this. I'm curious.
Yeah. So I just started learning AI and learning the illustration stuff, but also learning like specifically how to copy someone's likeness. And the miracle of it is, I've heard you talk about this in the group, that like how hard it is to get really good quality photos from people. Because the photos make the site. If the photos are bad, I can't design my way around bad, right? So I just, as soon as I saw that, I was like, oh my God, that's the answer to all my problems. No more hiring a photographer who doesn't understand web design and doesn't give you like, a nice like banner image with room for text and doesn't like, and I can do anything. I can do pics of you, but I can also do pics of like your office. I just did a photo shoot for someone, and she's like, this is my current office, but this is what I want it to look like. And I'm like, done. And so like made it match. And like, she's like, yeah, can we make the art be this? And I was like, of course, and like now she's got pics of her in her office, and then she also has pictures of that office. So she can use that as a background on her site, and we can take little tchotchkes and we can use those as design elements. Like it blows up the idea of freedom. It's amazing.
That's amazing. Okay, tell me, what tool are you using for this? How did you figure that? Did you teach yourself how to do it, or?
No. Oh my God. Yeah. I took Jenna Sword. It's amazing. It's unreal, the process. I took Jenna Sword's class, The Secret AI Society. And it's like the bulk of it I do in Midjourney, but there are 5 to 8 programs that I use to get the faces right.
Yep. Because I've tried AIing myself, and the face wasn't quite right. So that's interesting. It was a good 6 to 8 months ago, so maybe it's better now. But I did actually attempt to do it. It wasn't right.
Yeah, it's definitely hard. There's definitely like an art and a science to it. And it's tons better now than it was even just 2 or 3 months ago.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. Interesting. Okay, cool. Love these offerings. Okay. Yeah. So again, walk me through the timeline. So it was Thanksgiving. You decide to start this. Then you needed to get some portfolio pieces. Tell me about portfolio pieces.
Well, I copied a few WordPress sites and just like put the, stock images up. And then I went into Squarespace and I just designed, because I also wanted to get in Squarespace Circle. I'm like, you're not keeping me out of Squarespace Circle. Like, I'm going to get in there. So I designed 3 sites just like for me, and made all those live. And then she hired me. So I had her site in my portfolio. And so then the next year, I think I was charging $2,500 by like February of the next year. And then last year, made $45 last year.
Amazing. Amazing. Okay, let's discuss. People are often wondering, do I need to niche to be successful? Did you niche? And what do you think about that question?
It's an interesting question, right? I know the power of niching, but Squarespace itself is a niche. And I have been surprised at how loyal people are to Squarespace. Like, I certainly didn't have that in the WordPress world. I mean, there are people who are like, they only want to work in WordPress, but like, I've been surprised by how many people come to me and they're like, oh my God, my old site, I've had all my sites in Squarespace. I'm never leaving this platform. So just saying Squarespace web designer, I think is going to get you a lot of traction. And then I lived in Boulder, Colorado. I mean, all my clients were healers and, therapists and Reiki practitioners and massage therapy, woo-woo people. Like, that was my whole client roster. And it's expanding a little bit now. I've just gotten a couple national speakers and like some executive coaches and stuff. So, and I think that's okay. It feels okay. I almost feel like Squarespace is enough, maybe a little bit more of a niche. Like I tend to work with women businesses, but and a lot of coaches, a lot of consultants, but that's not necessarily, I'm not picky. If you love what you do, you're going to speak my language. That's my big qualifier.
Yep. Totally. That makes sense. That's good. I mean, I think I've truly seen so many past students. Some have highly specific niches, some do not at all. And it both works. So
yeah, like, I don't think it's going to hurt you. If you have a really specific niche and you're like, I know I want to work with this exact like kind of person, it's not going to hurt.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, totally. Okay. Amazing. Tell me about being your own boss. People, like, what does your day look like and how many hours do you tend to be work? Actually, we'll just start with the first one. Yeah. What does being your own boss look like? And what does a typical day look like for you at this point?
Okay, so the first one, I'm so excited to answer this question because this is like my love letter to Paige. One of the reasons that I loved your content so much, and one of the reasons I like really wanted to take the course and like get more of like, and just be more in your realm and like what you do, is because the way that you approached your business gave me permission to approach my business the way I wanted to. Like, I was just like your story of like, I'm in Germany. I can't network, I don't speak the language, and like, okay, well, I can blog and I'm going to do that. And like, I don't want projects dragging on forever. I'm going to have this 2-week process. And like, this is how it's I'm going to give you this on this day. And then we're going to do this. I mean, you broke so many rules, and that really gave me permission to run my business the way I needed to run it for me. And so like, one of the things that I do is like, I don't talk to clients on the phone ever, almost ever. We'll do a discovery call and then I never talk to them on the phone again, because phone calls like drain me. They drive me nuts, right? I mean, God, this was so much of the reason I burn out before I had an in-person office and like, I'm wearing makeup and like a suit and going in. What was I doing? What was I thinking? It was so dumb. But so this time around, I was so determined to listen to myself and build the business I wanted. And it was one of the reasons that I slow rolled it last year, is because I was like, if I don't like this, if at any moment I start to feel that pinch of like, oh, I can't do this, and I start to burn out, I'm chucking it. I will work in a grocery store before I will do that to myself again. I mean, I've had it. And so like, I have all these things in my business now that work amazingly. Like, I don't have phone calls with clients. All of our communication is on Voxer or WhatsApp. Every client loves that. It's amazing. Even if they've never used it before, at the end of the process, they're like, it was amazing to like have you at my beck and call. I could message you at like 2 a.m. on a Tuesday, like, and I just get back to them when I can. And then there are lots of other things. That's the biggest one. No phone calls. I mean, never in-person meetings. I really cut down Zooms. We do a lot of Loom videos. Loom is like my best friend. Like that kind of stuff. So to me, that's what being my own boss means, is it means I can build a business that doesn't drain me and that works for me, my brain, my energy levels. And like, yeah. So anyway, that's
amazing. I think it's so true, is that oftentimes, and I really encourage students when they come into the courses, I'm like, think about the life that you want to live, like very specifically, and then make sure you design this thing with that in mind. Like, you can choose your offers, you can choose the way that you manage a project, you can choose how many calls or no calls or whatever that you want to have. And it's key that you don't just take the process that everyone else has done, because it's the way things are done. Like, really, it can be done differently. And also, as you found, like, your clients might even like it. So Right. Because if it works for you, it's going to work for them. I mean, it really, really will. It's
because there's an audience out there waiting for you. There's an audience that wants what you have to deliver in the way you have to deliver it. And you always champion that. And I love that about your content.
That's amazing. Okay, good. Okay, yeah. And then give me your typical day in the life. So like walk me through from your morning to your evening. What exactly working for yourself and being your own designer is exactly?
So I usually wake up around 7 or 8, do my yoga, do whatever I need to do that day. Sometimes I'll journal. Sometimes I always have I give myself a little bit of time at the beginning of the day where I don't feel rushed. If I immediately start checking email or something, I go nuts. So a little brain health at the beginning of the day. And then I spend usually the first part of the day until around lunchtime is working on my stuff. So maybe content creation, maybe revamping my admin processes or anything I want to do for me and the business. And then the afternoons are client work. And I do client work. And then Fridays I usually take off to do some Fridays I'll either take off completely or I'm building other things. I've got some stuff cooking. And so then Fridays are, designed for that kind of stuff. And then I usually don't work late at night. If I work late at night, it's usually consuming content or, learning something new. I've been taking some AI classes at night. I mean, that's been a thing, but that's a pretty typical week for me.
That's awesome. And then, okay, tell me how long a project is 2 weeks for you typically. Is that right?
Yeah, I do both. I keep trying to wrangle clients into that 2-week process, but it's still a learning curve for me. And sometimes clients are like, oh, I need more time or whatever. And I'm like, that's fine, whatever. As long as I'm getting paid, that's fine. Take your time.
Yep, that makes sense. Amazing. Yeah. Okay, cool. And then I just hear students' or potential students' questions in my mind. The other thing they always want to know is how long does a website take you at this point? So now you've done it for a while. So obviously when you start building websites takes longer. And then after you've been doing it for a while, you can smash things out pretty quickly. How long does your typical full website build take you?
Okay, so this is interesting because I actually did a ton of research into this a few months ago because I was like, am I just really bad at this? Because I feel like it takes me a ton of time. Because I was like, once I start building in Squarespace, surely I can knock out a site in 12 hours, right? No, you cannot. That's not a thing. At least I can. So I tracked all my hours and then I actually interviewed a whole bunch of people to try and figure out. For me, now this is just for me, and it's one of the reasons my pricing is the way it is, it usually takes around 40 hours, but that's from beginning to end. That's from discovery call to launch.
I would say, yeah, I'd say that's pretty reasonable, actually. I mean, for all the bits and pieces of the process and the edits and communication and all that stuff. Yeah, totally. Right. And if you spread that over a 2-week period, it's only half your actual work week for both weeks. So it's really not bad.
Right. That's why I'm like, okay, I think it works. And when I talk to a bunch of other people, especially reputable designers who I know produce good work, they had very, very, very similar answers. I didn't talk to anybody who was less than 35.
Yep.
So I'm like, okay, I think this is a good thing to keep in mind. And it's because there's so much on the back end. I just don't build the site and send them off. We've got to make it mobile responsive and we've got to make sure everything's working the way it should. And there's a ton of stuff I give them when they launch. So I'm like, I think it's all right. So we're looking at about 40 hours for a site.
Yep. That's cool. Love that.
An entire project. Yeah.
That makes sense. Okay. And then tell me also, all right, Diane, I know someone's going to watch this. They're going to be like, damn, this lady's inspiration. Tell me, words of advice. If someone wants to do what you've done, if they want to have this job, tell me, what would be your top tips or things that you wish you knew back before you got started?
There's no one right way to build a business. You do it the way that it works for you. Listen to yourself. It's great to do research. It's great to ask other people. It's great to copy other people's processes and get tips and ideas. But you build the business that you want to build for you. Listen to yourself. Oh my gosh, if I had done that 20 years ago. That's probably the first thing. And then the other thing is I would say work on your fear of rejection. That was a big thing that has held me back a lot in the past. Marketing is just putting yourself out there. It's a numbers game. It's just, you're going to teach workshops to 2 people. You're going to create posts that nobody cares about. You're going to do it a lot, and you're going to have a lot of no's. And And even people who are very, very, very successful, there is nobody out there making 300 grand a year doing this who is like, oh, it's just cake. Clients just come to me and it's so easy. Like, that's not happening. They're movers and shakers, and they're hustling, and they're making it work, and they're pursuing it, which I think is, honestly, it's part of the fun. Mm-hmm. So if you're passionate about it, you love it, and you really want to make it work, like, have faith in yourself and just freaking go for it. That's what I would say.
Totally. I love that. I think it's so true. Like, yes, we should build businesses that serve our lives. Absolutely. But also there definitely is work involved. But if you enjoy the work, then it's not, it's not that painful or anything. So, I mean, it's actually, you're excited to actually open it up and do it.
Right. It's creative. It's fun. It's expanding, like, you and your place in the world. I mean, it's awesome. It's a great time. And I would say, if I had one more thing, I would say set yourself apart from your competition. I think that's such a big thing. Like, do make sure that you give people a reason to choose you over other people. If you're not articulating that well enough, you have to do it with price. And that's a really crappy way to build a business.
Yes. Can you talk about how do you do that? How do you set yourself apart from your competition?
So for me, my strategy was that I know marketing, particularly coming from the WordPress world. There are so many people who know code, but they don't know anything else. And they're like, I can build you a website. And I'm like, yes, but should you be building a website? You built it, but is it going to accomplish the goal? Nobody wants a website for a piece of art to look at. They want it to do a task, particularly put money in their bank account, So my big thing was, look, I've been doing this since 2006. I know about customer journeys. I know how to create a website that's not a brochure, that it's a 3-dimensional journey that I guide your people through so they can get what they need and sign up for your service or your, be customer or whatever. So that was how I set myself apart. I will tell you my secret phrase that I use to do it is results driven. I build, right? It's good, right? Yeah. Results-driven websites, because I think a lot of website designers are they know they can build something pretty, but they're afraid to promise a result. And I'm like, if you start out the gate, promising your clients a result, and you can't promise, who knows what's going to happen. But if you say, look, my websites are designed to get you sales, to get you signups or whatever, people are going to look at you differently.
Yeah, so. I agree. I totally agree. Okay, that's good. Tell me your opinion on, is it too late to become a website designer? Is it oversaturated? And I feel like you're especially well placed to answer this question because you literally have done this for 20 years. So is there a difference now between the client inquiry amount now and 20 years ago, for example?
Oh yeah, huge. It's a ton higher. Holy cow. Oh my gosh, it's a totally different world. So you got to figure, when I was starting, you had to convince people why they needed a website. Nobody has to do that now. People know what a website is. They know what it's for. They know why they need one. You don't have to bother with any of that education. So that's taken care of, right? And so many people, the whole work from home thing and big corporations being cheap and not wanting to hire actual employees and wanting to hire contractors, everybody's hanging out a shingle right now. And and websites are the modern version of the shingle, those people are going to need websites. I don't see a slowdown in the market at all. If there's a part of you that's oh, maybe this isn't a great career right now because of that, I would say, no. Jump in. The water is warm. We are having a great time in here. Join us. Yeah.
Join us. Yeah. That's incredible. And that's so true. It's so true that 20 years, and I found when I started, that the problem was that people they were less familiar with what Squarespace was. And now that's really not a problem anymore. So I was having to explain why Squarespace is good versus WordPress back in the day. Whereas it's not actually, whereas everyone now is they already know WordPress X. They're just looking to get off of it. And they're looking to get onto a platform, which they hear is so much better. So yeah.
Yes. I think that's such an important point too. People are well, 40% of the world is on WordPress. And I'm yeah. And they're all pissed off. Yeah. Because WordPress sucks. Because they've been paying tons for maintenance and it keeps breaking and all the plugins. Oh, WordPress did another update. So everything on your site's broken for 5 days until I get a chance to fix it. This is what people have been putting up with for years. And literally years, there wasn't a viable option. I mean, there's a reason I built sites in WordPress. There wasn't another option. If you were serious about a website, serious about your business, you wanted to build a custom site, WordPress was the only answer. That's not true anymore. And we've got drag and drop, and we've got Squarespace, and it's like, it's a whole different world. So not only do you have what I think is a bigger market now of people who need sites, but all of those people who are on WordPress are going to be coming this way. So,
Yep. I totally agree. And yeah, I 100%, when people will say they're like, oh, 40% of websites are on WordPress, I'm like, yeah, so it's literally the only option. And now the people who are still on there, like I have friends who are still on there and they're like, oh, but it's just such a pain to move. And so like, depending on how much content they have and everything, but yeah, people are biting the bullet and doing it. It is a hassle. But I mean, when you're spending so much money and it's just such a massive annoyance, and it's like, I just want to run my business, I don't want to constantly be dealing with like a website meltdown, then yeah.
Yes, right. And I don't want to have to keep paying this team $1,000 every month to keep the site up and running. Guess what? You can just pay your VA like a couple extra hours a month. And by the way, here's a few tutorials for them to watch, and they can just take care of it for you. I mean, it's a whole, it's a whole thing.
Yeah. And it's not even like updates that you have to do in terms of the technology. It's just like updating like when you want, like, I don't know, new photos on your website or a new service added or whatever. So yeah.
Right.
Cool. Love that. Tell me about, okay, so in the courses, tell me your favorite part. Like, what is the thing that you thought was like, damn, this is my favorite part of this course?
It's the calls. It's the calls. I love the calls so much. I'm amazing. It's so cool to listen to you and Caitlin too, but like, it's like, especially, I think it's so cool that you have somebody else on the call with you, because hearing you guys like kind of brainstorm off each other and like, oh, and historically, like this used to happen, and oh, I've had this in the past, and like that kind of thing. It's so validating because, this is a very solitary life. Even if you have a team of people working for you, it's, nobody else is out there taking the same risk that you are doing. Nobody is out there making all of the decisions that you are making. It's hard and it's scary and it's lonely. And like, I don't realize how much that's weighing on me until I'll show up to the calls. And then, somebody will ask a question and I'm like, oh, those clients, oh my God. And then you're like, oh yeah, those clients, this is how you deal with them. And I'm like, yes, thank you. Yes. And it's such a nice way. I feel such a camaraderie with you and Caitlin and everybody else on those calls. And it's just it's like a piece that I'm missing. It's like a piece in my day that like, oh, yay.
Needs to be there. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
Really good.
Yeah. And I totally agree. And I find them so much fun to come to. And it's just like a nice monthly hangout, my social time as well. So yeah, it's a mutual love of the calls. So that's great.
That's awesome. Very cool.
Final question for you. Tell me, if someone is on the fence about taking one of the courses, what would you say to them?
Oh, please take the course. I mean, okay. So here's my caveat. Okay, here's what I would say. Figure out who you are and what you want. That's the most important thing. Figure out who you are and what you want. But if you're at a place where you're like, I really want to do this. And the thing is, the course is not different from Paige's content. If you read Paige's content and you consume Paige's content and you like her and you like her message and you like her values and you're like aligned with her, you're going to love the course. It gives you the structure you need. It gives you a way to approach running a business. It gives you like all of those starting pieces that you need to get your head on straight, to like get a good start. I think it's such a good shortcut to like success and getting your first client. I think it's a super great shortcut to getting your first client. It's going to happen a lot faster than if you try and do it on your own. And like, it's great to have the roadmap.
As you heard from Diane, speaking and hosting workshops was a major part of her marketing strategy. And maybe that's right for you, but maybe it's not. On the 21st, 22nd, and 23rd of October, I'm hosting my ever popular free event, the Profitable and Productive Web Designer Bootcamp. In it, for one full day, we'll be discussing your marketing strategy options and picking the right one for you. Now, Bootcamp is the same event that Diane went to when she was web designer business curious before she joined my courses. Bootcamp is full of the most lovely, supportive crowd, and we have such a wonderful time together. But it's not just fun that we will be having the students in my community get results, and some of them are actually going to be joining inside a bootcamp to drop some incredible business building lessons of their own. These incredibly successful students like Diane are designing a lifestyle-first business, and they'll share exactly how they're doing it inside of bootcamp. So make sure, grab your seat. I will put the link where you can register in the description below, and I cannot wait to see you at bootcamp soon.